a patient and family members are waiting in the emergency room for the result of a brain scan. The doctors are looking at the brain scan and they're puzzled. The brain scan they're looking at would normally belong to somebody who passed away. That somebody was me. I take you back in time. In 2014, I started studying in Rotterdam, economics and philosophy. In 2016, I wanted to finish my bachelor at a different university. I got accepted at Harvard University. I started living there, got a girlfriend, two great roommates, Tom and Kevin, and I had it all. Until March 10. I woke up and wasn't feeling well. A couple of symptoms, high fever, headache, throwing up, not knowing what was waiting. A couple hours later, I caught the plane to Mexico. We were celebrating spring break. And in Mexico, with Kevin, he joined me, my roommate, and Kevin later wrote a piece what he saw that went wrong in Mexico. So I'm now going to quote Kevin. He writes, "We arrived in Mexico together and Jur was acting weird. Repeating questions and kind of being dumber, which Jur usually is not. I told Jur to take a nap and sleep while I go buy some water. I thought maybe Jur is just dehydrated. I leave the apartment, go to a store, when suddenly Jur sends me a text message saying, I am at the quad. And with goosebumps I realize, Jur, the quad is a building at Harvard. We are in Mexico now. What's going wrong in your mind? I hurry home and Jur was gone from the apartment. I start running around the neighborhood, not realizing this was a run for Jur's life. I finally find Jur topless on the street, wearing nothing, only jeans and socks, but not even shoes. I ask Jur, what are you doing? And Jur said, I'm looking for Tom. And with goosebumps I realized, Jur, Tom is our best friend who lives in Copenhagen since a couple of months. What's going wrong in your mind? That's the moment I called the medical team. And that's the moment I often look back on with goosebumps, because the fight for life started. I arrived in Mexico at the hospital, and they realized it was getting dangerous. My parents arranged a medical transportation to San Diego, and my parents also took a flight to San Diego. And in San Diego, they found out I got hit by a brain infection. The light went out in my brain. And normally, with a brain infection, the usual protocol should, within 3 weeks, be effective. In my case, it was not. The medical specialists were facing a tremendous challenge, and based on experimental research with rats, they decided to go on with treatment. Luckily, I survived. But after a brain infection, you can have a lot of residuals. I only have one. I lost my entire memory. Control, Alt, delete. So to realize everything I told you until now, my parents told me. I have 0 active memories, and it never came back. And to illustrate, if you recover from such an infection, they ask you some questions to see what's wrong in your brain. And the first question they asked me was, do you know who your mother is? She's in the room, can you point at her? And I had no clue. That's when it all started. And with my parents, we did medical transport to the Netherlands, where all the knowledge appeared to be gone and never came back. My brother, sister, everybody had to reintroduce himself, and I had to learn how to walk and everything again. And then we went to a rehabilitation center, Heliomare, and they said to me, you will never go back to university. And then in the Netherlands, medically, after a couple of weeks, happened something again. I was making so many antibodies that there were too many antibodies, and my antibodies were fighting my brain again. A second immune encephalitis. The only way I could survive was they had to take out my completely immune system in the hope that after 3 weeks it would be reboosted. It did. But how? They only can take down my immune system with the medicine prednisone. The side effects are gaining weight, feeling sober, and having problems with sleeping. 30 to 40 milligrams are a high dose. I got 1,200 milligrams a day. And that, in fact, with the combination that I lost my entire memory. So I had no friendships anymore. I had friends on Facebook, but no friends in memory. What does it mean to have a friendship without shared memories? So I felt very alone and sober. And then there came a point I was suicidal and stepped on the railway track. And the ground was shaking because a train was coming. And in split seconds I realized, on one hand, my chances on being lucky are very low. But on the other hand, luck itself is worth everything, it's infinite. And a small chance on infinite is still infinite, I really should not do it. And stepped to life and chose to live. And afterwards I started investigating myself, how can I make myself happy again? Shall I keep focusing on what I forgot and how it all works, or focus on the future and make new memories and see what it can bring me? Meaning, losing your entire memory doesn't mean only the memories. All the knowledge and all the emotions built up over time were gone. As you maybe can imagine, it brought a lot of problems, but also beautiful things. I've first introduced 3 examples of problems. Having no references, also no social references. I once was with a man talking in a room. Everybody has a kind of personal space. And out of my enthusiasm, I always came close to him, and every time he did a step back. We ended up at the other side of the room, and I had no idea why. And besides that, all the references in language were all gone. We once went back to the United States, and we had to go through US Customs. They asked me there, "Sir, do you promise to give an honest answer to the following questions?" And I thought I have nothing to hide, so of course I said yes. He asked me, "Did you pack your bag alone?" And my mother packed my bag. So I said no. Apparently, that's not the right answer. So I had to go to a special security place, and there he asks, "Sir, now give an honest answer to the following questions." And I was a bit stressed. Okay, apparently just did it wrong, now focus. And he asks, "Did someone give something to you?" And I thought, everything in life, here can only be one answer right. Even life is a gift. So I said, yes. Somehow, that's also not the right answer. I have been wondering about all those questions, so you have to promise to give an honest answer and then don't do it. And another example, for my study philosophy, I started to dive into everything and learn it again. But I think my friends and family sometimes became crazy from my questions, especially regarding identity. The big philosophers say your identity is your memory. Well, I know I'm not, so I started thinking a lot about identity. I think all my family can tell you, if they ask me, "Jur, who are you?" I would say, "I don't know, but I'm searching." But the good things about losing memory, having no frameworks. For example, also no prejudgments. I was once having a conversation with a woman of color about dreams. And I asked her, just out of curiosity, "What is your dream?" And she said that there's no color in the world anymore. And I really didn't understand it. I said, "No color, but look at your beautiful red dress and blue pants. It makes the world so beautiful." And she put an arm around me and said, "Wow, how can you look at the world like that?" I was questioning, that is no references. Looking at the world like that, I don't know. And also about my study philosophy, I had to learn everything again from primary and high school. But in philosophy, you have to question your own references. Well, I became pretty passionate about it and pretty good at it because I had no references anymore. And then the last good thing about losing memory, looking at the future and having no limiting thoughts like I cannot do it. They said to me that I could never go to university again. And I started working, and it was a long way. But without limiting thoughts, I thought, they won't say I won't never do it. And I got my 2 bachelors at university.
Jur. Surprised to see me.
No, but yes, because I'm not finished yet.
They literally said that this was the cue.
Yeah, no, almost. I guess I'm not the only one having issues with social references. So this is, you heard my story, but I hope I also represent a big invisible group of fellow sufferers, because every minute in the world, 5 to 6 people get hit by meningitis or encephalitis. So during my 12-minute TED Talk, that's almost 50 people. And I personally experienced how many questions there are regarding brain. So in 2019, I started a foundation to make groundbreaking research possible. So I started to think outside the box and look positive at the world. So I recommend no one to be as sick as I did, but I realized having no references brought me freedom to live from my heart, freedom to connect with people on my path, freedom to live without prejudgments, and freedom to live without limiting thoughts on my dreams and visions. So I recommend no one to be as sick, but please, don't let your past limit your future, and don't be victim of the past, but be a director of the future.